is canceled for this afternoon. It will rebook due to illness. And we have a report from the Recreation Department, and the departmental report that was omitted during the Friday afternoon problems that we had with our computer system. So copies of that have been circulated. So with that, a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Those in favor? Motion is carried. With no minutes of meetings. Departmental reports, we'll start with the planning and building report at page 7 for receipt.
Move.
Second.
No receipt then, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Any questions or comments for our planner who's here on the planning and building report? I had one question, and it relates to the, it is related to the one on Comox Ave, 1891. And that one is shown as an ongoing application, and back in December I did meet with one of the proponents there, so I'm just wondering where that's at.
There's been no further, that's the one just across from Ellis?
Yes.
Yeah, there's been no further movement on that. We have an outstanding request for additional information in the fall, and we haven't received anything.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the fire department report, page 17. And that is provided by our fire chief who's here. A motion to receive that would be in order.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions or further comments from the fire chief?
Good job.
Your worship.
Yes, sir.
And just as well recognition and thanks for the student fire camp again. Appreciate that that's still being held after all these years, and it's great inspiration and a great recruitment, hopefully.
It is a big recruitment. We do a camp every 2 years. We do a semester program right now. In fact, the semester students will be there tomorrow night, which is about 17 high school kids.
So this year is the RCMP camp, is it?
RCMP camp this year. Our camp will be again next year. So that'll be our ninth camp next year.
Okay, great.
You know, just add, I've got the fire department on my Facebook site, and it's quite good. It's very informative. You know, there's always something going on there, and actually, I like following it. It's good. Maybe Shelley could have that on the roads. You can see with the potholes or like, where to avoid. But no, it's good. It's good to follow that in the social media.
Maybe the planning department could.
Yeah. Well, we can't sleep.
All right, thank you, Fire Chief, and we'll move on then to Parks and Building Maintenance. That is a report from Fraser, who's not here. He's on holidays, but a motion to receive would be in order.
Move receipt.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions of staff? Yes.
Just a compliment again to Parks Department for the Family Day activities there. The place was just packed, and I know a lot of staff worked that day.
We're talking about the recreation?
Recreation Department.
We're on parks right now.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to get there.
His back seems to have affected his hearing.
All right. Well, I'm sure that Parks Department will be getting pretty busy here soon enough. Fourth quarter financial statement report. And a motion to receive that would be in order.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receive that. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions or comments?
I think I should recuse myself if we go further in there. We're talking about Marina.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, we're not there.
We'll be talking about marina rates later on. This is just a year-end financial.
Oh, okay, that's financial.
Yeah.
Us following Hugh's lead.
Forgetting all the stuff.
That's just, report on the year-end and carry
okay.
forwards, etc. All right, seeing nothing, then we'll carry on with the next one, Public Works Status Report.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receipt that, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And we do have an verbal update from our engineer on the drainage project down by the Blackman. So you might as well go ahead with that.
Sure. So the update from the last community over is the Piper Steam project that we're going to do along Port Augusta. In the last few weeks, we've been dealing with the firm from Surrey to schedule it and get them to come in and do the pipe bursting, but it seems like the availability and scheduling is sort of a conflict, so we decided to discuss an alternative plan so that we can proceed with the works as quickly as possible. So actually the notices went out yesterday, it's starting next week. I've got notices here as well. So from February 16th to February 27th, we're going to basically abandon that existing line, the deep line that's underneath our water main and underneath the water vault, and realign that store main within the road dedication coming from Beaufort down to the outfall. We'll do that internally with our in-house staff as well, so we can again proceed quickly with the improvements and the upgrade of that store main that needs to be done. So I wanted to give council and mayor an update on that and the reasoning why we did it. So we get questions from the public. Again, the notices went out. I believe our foreman has been in contact with some of the newspaper companies as well, and we've been hand-delivered them to the condos, and obviously Harbor Authority and the other businesses that are going to be directly impacted. So that's the update on that.
And budget and time.
So we believe that the budget will remain within the allocated amount that has been approved by council. By being able to do it internally with staff, we can reduce a lot of the costs. So that was sort of another reason why we went by doing it in-house. And timing, we should be out of there by February 27th. Again, that's for 2 weeks. Weather is permitting as well. So the forecast looks like everything is sort of lined up, that we can take advantage of this warm weather and get this upgrade completed.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, I noticed when I walked by there that they've got the sandbags up along the side. Is that something that with this new change you're gonna like put a little bit of a build up or a little curve there?
We basically put the sandbags there to protect, that's what's happening, that main keeps failing and then the water is coming up, so we're just being proactive to ensure no further flooding or property damage occurs. So we've been very sort of proactive to ensure that no other in the last rains that we had last weekend. So we've been very creative, trying to divert some of that water down and drain within the road dedication as opposed to going within that main, knowing that it's failing. And then again, the sandbags were there. So we've been working quite closely with the properties within the area. And this time frame works for them as well. So.
Right. Any further? Just a question on the speed radar boards. I know that one's been installed up at the Balmoral area near the tennis courts.
Yeah.
Seems to be well received. Is there intention to move that around?
It is. That one's been there for maybe a month or so by now. We're getting, great positive feedback on that. We have 2 total, and we just set up that second one basically right in front of the fire hall in the rec center.
Okay.
And again, got some positive feedback on that right away. So the intention is to move them around. We'd like to concentrate on the 30-kilometer zones at this point. It doesn't mean we have to restrict to those areas, but the schools, playgrounds, the rec center, and the fire hall is a location.
Well, I noticed that Councilor Arnott was trying to see if he could go 30 kilometers on his bike.
But the flashing light just kept blinding me, and that will lead into my question.
Yes.
I was contacted by a member of the public who deals with people with epilepsy, and this lady said that it's been noted that people with epilepsy can be triggered, seizures can be triggered by these lights. And so I talked with the CIO. Have we looked into that? I mean, is it a valid concern? I'm just wondering.
Well, we correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, but we up the speed limit before the flashing light goes on. So if you see the flash, you really should slow down.
Yeah.
And if anyone does have those concerns in terms of that condition, my direction would be that if you drive within the speed limit, you won't be affected.
Right. But the fact that this person brought up is that if they're approaching and the lights start flashing off, granted maybe they're speeding, but if it triggers some kind of epileptic seizure, then, I mean, they're going a little fast, they're going into a seizure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just, is it worthwhile looking into, or is it just a moot point?
It's not a concern that we've heard from ICDC, who, you know, has helped us acquire these speed boards. We'll pose the question to them again to see if any other community has those concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Having dealt with epilepsy in our family, as long as this person takes the medication, as I understand it, they probably should minimize any problems.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, just this professional who dealt with them stopped me in a store one day and had some concerns with them, so. But I've never seen it go myself, because I always drive slower than what was needed.
Except when you're on your bike.
Yeah.
Jeez.
All right,
So,
Councillors.
in a copy of the.
Sure. And Councillor Swift.
I just would like to make a comment. I know some of the residents in that area have been very pleased with that, so I don't know if we're at some point would consider putting a permanent button.
At the rec center?
No, at the park.
At Balmer Hall?
Yeah. Just because of the way that road curves around as well, it's a little bit of a blind corner for people coming out of those condominium developments. So they've been very pleased that people have slowed down. It gives them a bit of a safety issue for them. So, so all matter of positive.
Well, it's great that we got the ICDC funding contribution. I think I have it in there, that the total cost is $10,000, ICDC contributed for $7,000, I believe. So they are approved by ICDC, and this is the first ever look at epilepsy that highly recommend it through them, as they make it quite effective.
All right, thank you. All right, so unless there's further questions on the Public Works report, we'll move on to the Recreation report, which was circulated earlier this afternoon. So
Move
motion.
receipt.
Thank you.
Second.
Hugh.
All those in favor? Councillor McKinnon.
I think people got the sentiments of what I was saying. Thank you to the staff for a wonderful family day up there.
Appreciate it.
And as you see, pretty good result for the fitness studio as well. 1,200 more visits in the year-over-year basis, which is all good. And other reports there are for your information. So, any further comments or questions? Go
I
ahead.
would assume we lost some of our fitness people to Courtney, and when they opened theirs, and they would now be coming back. Is that?
I'd ask our rec director.
You know, I know that.
I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
We're actually in the middle of, we're putting surveys forward. One has gone already, and when we finish the next two, we'll have a better idea of where our customers are coming from. But that is a distinct possibility that we have returning customers.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, seeing none, then we'll, nothing further on that, then thank you for all those reports from the staff. Departments, I should say. So, moving on, we have under staff reports, the first one is as a result of our discussions in December and January, staff have brought forward, as promised, to today's committee of the whole, the draft strategic plan update for receipt and further comment.
Move receipt.
Second?
Receipt then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. So at this point, it is a draft, and it will form, obviously, part of our discussion today, and it will lead into, of course, our budget discussion with the action items that we ultimately decide we want to have included within this five-section plan. So, four-section plan, sorry, with action items as noted. So, I'm not sure who would like to go first.
Well, I just, I'm looking at some significant budget increases, especially at the regional district where, they're proposing approximately a $12 per household increase. Now, we haven't really gotten into that budget, but water, sewer, all of that, garbage, everything's going up. I look at our plan here, and we have things on here like a water park at Marina Park. Lovely idea. But if that's going to form a part of what we do, and that becomes something that we start budgeting for, I'm not sure that some of these things are, I'm not sure that that one in particular is going to fit within the framework as we go forward. Not that it wouldn't be lovely to have, but, you know, I'm just seeing that we're going to see some fairly significant increases in budget. And our budget alone is, I mean, what are we looking at? About a 2 to 3% increase currently, and this wasn't a piece of it. So,
I think
you
the
know,
part of the reason this came on to at least a discussion anyway at the previous sessions was that there were two groups, Rotary as well as the Boys and Girls Club, that had expressed some interest in pursuing that, either as part of or perhaps in substitution for what we're looking at moving apart. So at this point, it's up to council to decide whether we want to include that as an action item. It would be, obviously consider whether it would be feasible. Before we go any further, we'd have to figure out what funding would be involved, and involving stakeholders would be very important. So that's in there as a discussion point. Strat plans, of course, identify some goals and objectives, but subject always to budget. In terms of the budget, we have to this point approved water and sewer rates, and the increases are noted from that separately, and those do incorporate the work, a large part of the work plan at the regional district. Not all, perhaps, but the other one that we are going to deal with today is marina rates, and then also in terms of garbage, we are looking at that today as well. And then the $12 per average household increase that's proposed, of course, is at the regional district as a proposal at this point. So budget will always be a factor to whatever we do, and whatever we decide to include in this strat plan will be tempered by that, of course. One could say that we shouldn't even bother with the strat plan because there may not be any money at all, but on the other hand, there are some objectives coming out of the election cycle that we just had that. And from staff, but of course, some of the ongoing projects that they have identified. So that's where that's at. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to stay in the strat plan, but it's for the context.
well, I think it's one of those things that people have been wanting or asking about water parks for as long as I can remember. It's just, I look at water filtration plant, that would be more of a need.
Sure.
When I look at it, I think, is it, if you do your wants, your likes, and your needs, I think we may be at a year where we need to look at our needs rather than our wants and our likes so much. So I just, I throw that out there.
Sure.
Because, until we actually see what the numbers are, I guess it's hard to say, but I think we have to be, I think we're going to find that with some of the stuff that's coming that, we're going to have to be careful in what we do at this table, so.
Oh, there's no doubt, and by putting it on the strat plan doesn't commit us to funding it unless we've already included that in the budgets. And yes, indeed, the water filtration plant is noted as one of the items on the strat plan at this point. And the effort at this point to the regional district is to see if we can get some funding for the levels of government for that. Although there will be certainly a commitment on the part of local community to pay for some of it too. So I guess if there's some things that perhaps were missed in the discussion, I looked at it late last week, I guess on Saturday, that seemed to incorporate most of what we talked about. It's probably worth pointing out that we have not included on the strat plan the existing ICE-T application, because of course that's ongoing and already in the process, and that will be carried forward as part of the management plan in any event. So these are, some are new items, some are ongoing items, but that's why that's not in it.
Just in regards to the ICE-T plan, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that September was the date of thrown out as hearing whether or not it had been a successful grant application?
Well, first of all, there's a meeting of the Island Coastal Economic Trust Board on Friday next week, a week from this Friday, and that'll determine sort of hopefully the approval at that level. That gets us to 50%. The other 50% is part of Western Economic Diversification's application, which can be submitted as of about the same time, and there's usually a 6-month turnaround on that. In fact, at ICE-T, they give you 6 months to raise the matching funds. So by the end of August, one hopes we'll hear a yea or nay on that.
So at that point, if we were successful, will the plan be reviewed again by council and by the public for
Yeah, I think CAO has mentioned that on a couple of occasions, that when we get approval of all funding levels, then the detailed design of phase one, there's several phases being considered, would then be finalized and put out to the public for further comment. So, yeah. Councillor Swift.
I like the big topics, if you like, but I'm just a little concerned that I think it captured all the ideas that we talked about the other session, but some of these are big items and some of them are little and they're all kind of together. And I would like, I think this needs more refinement, and I think there's too many things in it. So I don't know when we would do that.
Now's the time.
Now's the time.
This is what we're trying to get to. I mean, there's a desire to move forward with this, if only to give staff direction in the preparation of budget and to set aside appropriate funds for whatever projects are being considered. Of course, some of these things are smaller items, yes, indeed, and some of them are bigger. I think that's the very nature of the strat plan. For those who were at the LGLA sessions, Gordon McIntosh talked about strat plans in very detail. And certainly you wouldn't want to have more than 5 goals in any particular subcategory. Some of these we're going to deal with sooner, like the marina rates and the marina parking lot issue, and the BIA renewal, and then some of them will be dealing with more longer term, such as the filtration plant and ongoing issues to do with policing or speed of traffic, those kinds of things. So by its nature, I guess there'll be some smaller items and there'll be some bigger items.
I'm just not sure whether they are correctly placed in this plan. They're going to be items that we're going to be kind of dealing with anyway.
Certainly, staff would develop, as a result of an adopted strat plan, not only a budget but a work plan, which would include other things that they're already working on. These are things, I guess it's a council-driven process with some input from senior staff as to where we want to go with the strat plan. So it's your strat plan. What you want to see in it is up to you, but I would encourage council to deliberate on that today, and if necessary, at subsequent committees of the whole to do so. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just scrolling through, going to the website, redo, revamp. Is that something that we're actively looking at? It's a small item, but I think in turn it's a big item. It shows those who are looking at our community for maybe investment.
Yeah, CAO and I were discussing that. I saw recently that the town of Sydney redid theirs, and it was pretty slick. But CAO and I had a chat about that, so I'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, and again, we're trying to do it in a low-cost option and trying to make it a little more user-friendly. And we are looking at alternatives at this stage, so it is something that's top of our minds, and we're looking at adding some minimal funds to help us in this year's financial plan as well.
I was looking at Cumberland's, and it's a nice little website. You go on there, it's easy to find some things, and it's an enjoyable read. Ours is a little stiff.
Yeah, no, it definitely needs improvement.
Yeah.
There's also some system capacity issues that we have to deal with. So. All right, seeking further direction on this, what would you like to do with it?
There will be further opportunity to add to this.
Well, this is what we're hoping to do tonight. I mean, this was presented as something that we brought forward from the last committee of the whole, I think. And we asked staff to bring this forward to us in a draft for today's meeting. I'm not saying you have to finalize it today, but it certainly was intended to talk about it today. So, if there's things you want to take out or put in, then, I'm assuming that you've given it some thought and that you have some ideas as what you like to see, and if we've forgotten something or you feel we should take something out, then this is one opportunity to do it, but it'll have to be resolved relatively soon.
The reason I mentioned it is that as a rep to the PIA, I haven't had an opportunity yet, because we haven't met in the new year, to share what our brainstorming session brought
Sure.
out. And there may be some suggestions there that might be worthwhile to look at around the table.
Well, you certainly see that we've got a goal under the first item about working with them, not only for the liaison and the renewal of the mandate, but also to seek feedback from them specifically on the capital item that they've got. And of course, they would have their own strat fund they have to work with. So, yeah, by all means. You know, this is committee of the whole. There's no reason why we could not bring it forward again for further discussion in the next committee of the whole, 2 weeks' time. And there's other ideas, but I wouldn't want to sit on it too much longer than that.
Understood.
It's been 3 weeks since we discussed it last, so, yes, sir.
So, yeah, I think that's probably a good way to do it, because I've kind of had a hard time getting my head around this whole piece for some reason this time around. I don't know why. But one thing I noticed with our downtown is many of our goals to do with downtown vitalization tend to be around the marina. And it struck me the same as it did to you, that perhaps the BIA would have some input into some other things that might fit in there. So I think 2 weeks probably gives us lots of time. We can take this up and sort of go through it. I mean, it sounds like Maureen has some ideas of changing a few things too, so that might give us a little bit more time to
All right, well,
focus
staff
on
probably
it.
won't put any more
No.
effort into it until 3 weeks. Any further comments?
Yes, just, I will caution council that just because there may not be things, Councillor Grant, in this document, there are, as you know, the revitalization program that we have
Yes.
in place
Yes.
that addresses the downtown revite issues. So there are things in the background that are already happening
I
as well.
understand.
So just to
Yeah.
encourage council to keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, I'm fully aware of that. It's just, it struck me as we looked at this that everything seemed to be focused down there, and the missing piece was maybe we hadn't spoken to them to see if they've got any other. It just struck me, and then you said it. So.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate they haven't met since whenever they last met. Will they be meeting the next 2 weeks?
That's the whole.
All right, well, time is not of the essence yet, but it certainly will be, because staff want to get going on the budget. And we've now, we've been in office now for 2.5 months, so this is, we did hear from the DIA during the election. We all had a questionnaire that we had to answer. So if there's anything new under the sun that they would like us to pursue, I know one thing, for example, they talked about is a facade program. But, they've also got focused on renewing their mandate too, so it's hard for them to commit to something until their mandate's actually renewed. And I think we're all mindful of the fact that from the election and from our previous dealings with the BIA are some of the issues that are priorities for them as well as for us. But this is council's plan. This is not the BIA's plan, just so you're clear on that.
Understood.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
2 things. Event marketing for Marina Park, so as the CIO would say, is that something that you're working with CVEDs in the background? Do they help with a portion of that?
I haven't really put my mind to it at this stage. I think that the first priority is to see what happens with our potential project. And then working with what we have, we can work with CVEDs or whomever to look at a marketing strategy.
Right. So carrying on with what Councillor McKinnon said today, we're really not going to see any changes at the marina this summer as far as if we were to get grants for building and that. So it's safe to say that programs that people are looking at to have in the summer in the park are safe. Nautical days, whatever events. So
There'll be no infrastructure work done there other
Right.
than housekeeping or maintenance issues.
Well, 5 parking spaces. But. So the other part I did have was going back to the rec center and the water leak.
Yes.
Is that's been going on for a while, I gather, but do we have like any kind of dollar figures that we're looking at? Is the ground sinking there? Is it a big ticket item?
It could be.
Yeah.
The first approach is to have the engineers look at it this year to see where the water is coming from. There's some issues around the original build of the facility that many of us aren't aware of, and so we'll just have to do some literally digging and get information so that we can What we're proposing to do is we've provided numbers in the draft financial plan that we're working on that would address costs of the study this year, what we think may be appropriate for repair work for next year. But again, those are all subject to change once we know what's going on.
So yeah, as you can see, a geotech study would be required to give you some of those answers.
It only leaks when it's raining. I mean, it's.
Funnily enough,
Typical
no,
summer. Yeah.
it actually leaks in the summertime.
It does, all right. Too much sweat.
Councillor?
May I direct a question back to Councillor Square?
You certainly can.
I'm a little bit confused about your concern regarding our format here. I think I might be missing something. Could you tell me what you're thinking?
Well, I was thinking, some of these things I think we're going to deal with pretty quickly. Marina rates, for instance. The marina parking lot that Councillor Arnott considered last time. So I think these things, I see a strategic plan as being bigger. The overall big ideas are great, but within there, I think we've got a bit of a jumble of big things and little things. And maybe the way to tackle it is what Councillor Grant suggested in terms of needs and wants. And maybe that would be a way of sorting it out, because I think, in my opinion anyways, we've got to maintain our rec center and deal with that water leak in the floor and so on. So, if we sort out the things that we actually have to deal with and make those the priorities, then we can see what we've got left to play with, if you like.
Well, yeah, and I understand that concern, and I think that's the challenge of any local government. But a strat plan is a higher level discussion, and it, in some cases, until you know what the cost of something and who's willing to partner with you, you don't know whether it's doable or not. If, for example, we found out that a water park cost a certain amount and there were 3 or 4 community organizations that were willing to do it, and we thought it was a great idea and they were going to fund it, the only issue we'd have to worry about then is maintaining it and operating it. So, a water park, for example, in Courtney was done that way, right through the Rotary. So, it doesn't always have to come from us, but unless you make the commitment in that particular case to having one there and maybe contributing towards some initial design costs, it would never happen. So needs and wants are important, but there's also, another example is grant opportunities. If there's other funds out there for certain types of projects, then you shouldn't forget that, for example, the Lazo Road bank stabilization project is not one probably that we can really afford. Is it a need? Maybe. At what level it's a need depends on how much it costs and who's paying for it. So, if Build Canada comes in with 2/3 funding on that, it becomes an achievable project. If they don't, it's not as achievable. So that's the difficulty, of course, with all these things, is that they all have dollar amounts associated with them, and some will be our general revenues, some will be grants, some will be DCCs, some will be partnerships. And so, it's all well and good. And we haven't got 100 things to sort out here. We've focused on some that have been identified as highlights, and some of them will be not determined for a couple of years as to what they're going to want. Yeah.
You reminded me about bank stabilization. I don't see in here the bank stabilization concerns that are around the walkway around the old Des Reed condo. I understand there's some bank stabilization issues there. Is that something we should be addressing in here?
Well, it's part of our operation, and we in short order have to address the immediate concern about some erosion that we have down there. And then it could be moved more into, if it's a bigger fix, then it'll come forward as a capital item.
Okay. Just don't want to get it lost.
Yeah.
So is it time to move that we bring this back in 2 weeks to the next?
Well, all we've done to this point is receive it. We haven't approved it, so we'll ask staff just to bring it back in 2 weeks' time.
Because something else I'm just looking at here is we've got water park in Marina Park. I'm not saying Marina Park isn't the right spot, but we've got lots of parks. If we're going to do a water park, maybe that's not the best place for it. You know, I just think in terms of weather conditions, for example, I mean, you're gonna get maybe 2 months worth of play down there. It gets quite a bit cooler down there than if you get up a little higher in our town some places. Might be worth just putting water park in there and with where to put it to be determined.
Sounds like the skateboard park all over again.
Yeah, I'm not saying Marina Park isn't the right spot. It might well be.
I think it was put in there specific to the partnership that was being pursued by the Boys and Girls Club, the Rotary Club, and perhaps the BIA is a key element in having a nautical theme to the park itself. And water parks, by their nature, yes, are used in the summer months, but they're also designed these days to be used year-round as play structures. It's not just July, August thing.
All right, well, I'll leave my motion on the table that we bring this back at the next committee meeting.
Well, I'll come back to you anyway until it's approved, so
Yeah.
we'll just keep coming back.
All right,
So in 2 weeks' time, we'll hopefully get any further, perhaps final comments and any input from the BIA and other possible stakeholders. All right, so we'll move on. Page 41, council remuneration is the basically just a follow-up to previous reports. Staff have provided the information. And unless council wishes to go through a formal review, what's being proposed here is set out on page, I believe, 43, using the formula that was adopted initially back in 2006. So without basically any further discussion, that's what would happen unless you want to change it and do a formal review.
Just a thought, Your Worship, is that what would be needed for council to have a motion of zero increase this year?
A motion to that effect would be have to be made. And that certainly could be done. The formula that was initially adopted in 2006 talks about comparisons to CPI as well as the average, or 50% of the average of those 1, 2, 3, 4 communities. So at this point on page 43, it would be 0.88% for the mayor and 1.25% for the council members. So if you wanted to change that for 2015, then you certainly could make a motion and see what discussion is. Yes?
Well, I think, we, as Councillor Grant said earlier, there's a lot of financial hits going to be coming, and I like that idea. I'll move that we have a 0% increase for the first year, and
For 2015,
keep the price of the costs low for ourselves. We're asking other people to tighten their belts. I think it's only prudent that we do the same.
Right.
And,
So is there a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. No opposed, I assume. All right, so that'll come forward to council, correct, for a formal thing next week? All right, so moving on to BIA renewal. So staff have provided the report, recommendation from CAO is proceeding with the renewal on the town's initiative. And if so, then the bylaw will be forwarded to council for first, second, and third.
I would move that.
Second?
All right, any further discussion on that? Anything further to read, CAO? All in favor? Motion's carried. And just a quick question, that will ensue with advertising, et cetera. When did that get sort of come back to us? I guess we got to pass the bylaws first, the first 3 readings, right?
Correct.
So that'll come next week?
The bylaw will come next week.
And then it takes, what is it, 30 days? Yeah, that's the other one.
Two weeks consecutive weeks of advertising,
Okay.
and then 30 days following.
All right, so
30-day petition.
we'll start the process for the bylaws will start next week, and then adoption following all that other stuff. All right, great. Okay, moving on, page 55. This is for sanitary sewer service for 1139 Kaiway Road. That the bylaw 1801 to provide that service before the council for first, second, and third readings.
I'll move that.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? Just for any additional property to be added in there? All those in favor? Motion's carried. And also that the standard sewer connection fee for 1139 Kaiway Road be waived because the town will not have to build the connection.
You want a motion of that?
Yes, we do.
Move.
Second.
Those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, next item, I believe, Councillor Arndt, you have to excuse yourself for most of it anyway.
Well,
Marina tenant. All right, so based on some delegation, the delegations that we received and further comments, staff have brought forward the recommended change for the bylaw for marina rates for 2015. And the motions are there, but maybe before we get to that, we can have discussion, certainly any questions for staff. Councillor Arnott wants to come back for the discussion around the Coast Guard, so we'll deal with that after. So, any questions? Yes.
Just, first of all, thank you for the detailed report, and appreciate the time that was put in here. It clarified some things for me, certainly. I support the recommendation, and I'm pleased to see that the smaller boat owners will get a bit of a break as well.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready to make a motion?
Oh, I have.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm moving slowly. Just wanting to respond to a call that I received regarding these rates. The point made was we've had excessive rates to pay for the last X number of years. And so as a result, perhaps we should consider a freeze this year versus going right into it.
Well, you see on page 61, there is an impact if we go something less than 4% on our revenues. Of course, we had forecast 4% in our financial plan, so that shows you the cost over the 5 years for every percent you go below that. So I think 1% we're going to be looking at a shortfall in our financial plan of $136,000 that we'll have to make up from other cuts elsewhere, or perhaps increases in other sources of revenue. So just keep that in mind. If you go to zero, then you're at 170. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's over 5 years, right? Correct me if I'm wrong?
correct.
So roughly 45,000. So there you have it.
I just wanted to raise the point that was made. They felt strongly about it, and I
Sure.
said I would certainly raise it.
Yes.
I guess I'd just like to comment that I hope the voters feel that their message has been heard here at the table. And I think it has been. I think we were playing catch-up with the other one for a while, but, and we're still below the other marina, and it's very valuable space. So I'm very pleased to see what I believe is a really nice compromise in this solution, so.
All right. Thank you for those comments.
Personally, I agree. Yes, I do. Except that, just one little point too, though, to make, with regard to the comparison between our marina and the Comox Valley Marina, they do provide a lot more services for that price difference that we, yes?
Go ahead.
They're very different marinas, I acknowledge, but for instance, we provide services that they don't provide, right? We have the tidal grids and the boat launch, which services the whole of the marina basin.
And our docks arguably are in much better shape.
Are they?
So, yeah, I mean, it,
But they have washrooms and security, and no one will get that.
Excuse me, sir. You're not part of the discussion.
I realize that.
thank you. What we have been doing and over the last number of years is trying to play a bit of catch-up, also to acknowledge that it is a source of revenue for the town, and that, out of the 144 tenants, I can't remember the numbers, but the residents of Comox represent half?
Less than 50.
Less than 50%. So we are providing a service to the greater community. And in terms of whether they're excessive or not, I suppose everyone's entitled to their own opinions in that regard. I will say that the delegation was very respectful, and I thought encouraged us to be collaborative. So I think that's what staff has taken from that and comments of council. So it's been a good discussion, and just keeping in mind that as we go through the budget process, there's some makeup we'll have to find out. So are you ready to make a motion in regards to what the staff would recommend?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you.
Second.
And anything further discussion-wise, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, we'll ask Councillor Arnott to come back and grab it, and then we'll have a chat about the Coast Guard issue that's noted on the bottom of page 62. All right, so apparently we have one more vacancy in the marina. No, I'm just kidding. We do have to deal with this, perhaps, some comments people wish to make regarding the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We have the float building and the Bruce Brown 2 initially, and of course they've replaced that with another vessel, but they also have an inflatable there as well. So that's there for any further discussion. We have provided those rent-free. There's a cost to that, of course. Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, I would, I know staff is pretty busy, but this is a report that I would like to have from staff of where we sit with the auxiliary. I know they do a great service to the boating community. I'm just wondering, is it time just to review that? You know, it's been in place for a long time, and
well, this is the report. What more information do you want?
well, do they have other areas to draw from for revenue? Where the town is giving an awful lot of marina space to this one organization. Is there perhaps a way that they can go into a partnership with the small craft harbors? Is there funding from the federal government that we can tap into to help offset the costs that, or the losses that we have for that? So I'm just looking at a little bit more information. This has been something, you know, they've been happily there for 10 plus years, just looking to review it.
Okay, well, this is the information that we have. As far as them having other sources of revenue, I can only speak to what the presentation they gave at a Rotary Club, and they fundraise all year round. They also get $25,000 a year from the regional district to support their operations. A volunteer group of many number of people. Certainly have been supported in kind here by the town. So, I guess them moving potentially to the fisheries dock, I don't...
Just looking at what our options are. I mean, it's
I
nice
don't
that
think
they've
there's
come
any-
to your Rotary Club. They haven't come to my Rotary Club, but it'd be nice that we could have a presentation from them here.
We could certainly invite them to present. I am sure they'd be more than pleased to do so. That would be one way to go. I don't know if staff has any more information they can provide in regards to this as what's set out here. So if we want to invite the auxiliary, I'm sure that, what's his name now? I remember Ken?
I can't remember.
Drew.
Yeah.
Drew Hatfield. And so I would say that if we wanted to invite them, we could extend that invitation through, and they would come. They do have a very good presentation on what they're doing. Yes.
I would second that motion. If you're going to make a motion or a request, an invitation for them to come, is that I think we have some difficult decisions to make. We're deciding to give a break to some of our citizens here, and we have to make up revenues as well. So hearing their presentation would be worthwhile, and it'll help us in our decision making.
Yeah. So I'm, for my 2 cents worth, I'm going to go on record at this point to say I support wholeheartedly what the Coast Guard Auxiliary is doing, and the efforts that they make.
Yeah, but we have to remember they're not the Coast Guard Auxiliary, they're the RCM, Royal Canadian Marine Survey.
They're referred to in this report as such. And I would say that whatever they can do to help the voting public here, and if we can continue to support them, I'm all in favor of that. So. But certainly they can come make a presentation, and we can decide what if we want to, whatever we may wish to do. If we want to make any changes, that'll be a council decision. So a motion to invite them is in order, and that's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, so we'll move on to garbage rates. So bylaw 1799 is for consideration to bring it to council next week, first, second, and third reading with this report, which outlines the anticipated increase of $9 per year.
Move.
Second.
For residential first. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Councillor Swift and I will be attending the Regional Solid Waste Management meeting tomorrow in Canberra, and the first speaker on that, our first delegation on that meeting tomorrow morning is Alan Langdon, President of MMBC. So we'll be certainly catching his attention about Comox. And I was at the throne speech yesterday, but I wasn't able to hook up with the Minister of Environment, but our MLA is certainly still on the case to try to get some answers for us on that somewhat puzzling situation. All right, so do we vote on that? Yes, we will. Right? Yes. Yeah, thank you. All right, so at this point, we do have an in-camera meeting, so motion to exclude the public under sections B and C of section 90 of the Community Charter.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried.